Welcome to the Vinyl FAQ series, and today we're talking about pressed records versus lathe cut records, pros and cons. This is a great question because not many people know about lathe cut records, and even if they are aware of them, they're not quite sure exactly how they differ from pressed records. So I thought I'd do a quick video and explore the pros and cons of each. And if you're an independent artist looking to put your music onto vinyl, I'm going to help you decide which one you should go for. So before we start, I will just admit that I am completely biased because I cut lathe cut records here in my studio on this machine, and I love them. I love the fact that you can cut small amounts, you can make them really bespoke, you can make them limited edition, they come in lots of different colours, and I can cut a record and then play it immediately and it's ready to go off to an artist or ready to sell or raffle off or whatever you want to do with it. But having said that, I still love pressed records, and there's some definite pros for getting pressed records done. So I'm going to try and be fair about the pros and cons, but just so you guys know, I make lathe cut records here. So yeah, I might be a little biased on that. So let's dive in, and first of all, let's look at the pros and cons of pressed records. First of all, pressed records are cheaper to make, which is great if you're an artist and you're wanting to sell lots of them and make some money. So the second pro of pressed records is the amount of colour options available. You can get any colour you can think of, and also loads of cool textures like splattered vinyl, like marble effect vinyl, and even like glittered vinyl and stuff like that. And the third pro of getting pressed records done is that there's no cap on volume. You can get as many as you want, and in fact the more you get, the cheaper it gets, which is great if you're an artist selling lots of records and trying to make some money. So what about the downsides of pressed records? Number one is the large minimum orders. Pressed records often have a minimum order of 200 to 300 units, which can end up costing a couple of £1,000s or dollars, and that's quite a hefty investment for independent artists to make, and it's quite a lot of money to front to get your songs onto vinyl. And perhaps you're at the stage in your career where you actually can't sell 300 very quickly or quickly enough to warrant investing that amount of money. Con number two, and it's not really a huge downside, but every record you get in that order is exactly the same. Whereas with lathe cut records, you could order 10 or 20 and get each one an individual colour, or you could put different audio on them. Because they're handmade and bespoke, they're a lot more easy to customise. And con number three is the lead time. Getting your pressed records back from the pressing plant can take anywhere from 6 months to a year, which is a really long time to wait, especially if you're going on tour or you've got gigs coming up or you've got an album launch to prep for. So that is probably the biggest downside with pressed records, is the long lead times. So that's the pros and cons of pressed records. They're a bit cheaper, loads more colour options, but you've got a minimum order and they take a lot longer to get back to you. So now let's have a look at lathe cut records. So perhaps the biggest pro for lathe cut records is that there's no minimum order. You might want to get just one record cut as a keepsake for yourself, or maybe you've just got a couple of gigs or a really short tour and you just want to get 20 or 30 records done to sell and make a bit of extra money, and lathe cut records are great for exactly that purpose. Pro number two, you can mix and match colours and even mix and match the audio. For my clients here, I really encourage them to make their records really unique and bespoke. So I've done things like add specific voice notes to records, or cut records that have alternate mixes or alternate masters on. So if someone gets a run of 10 records, they can make each one really, really individual and unique. And pro number three for lathe cut records is the quick turnaround. If I have a client in for an attended mastering session, for instance, and we've got a bit of time left over at the end of the day, I'll often offer to come in here and cut a quick single or maybe an EP, and they can take that home with them that day. So it can be as quick as a same day, same week, or at least same month turnaround. Now, this obviously depends on who's cutting your records and what kind of backlog they have, but in general, it's often way, way quicker than getting press records done. So what about the cons of lathe cut records? I did tell you I'm completely biased, but I'm going to be fair and I'm going to tell you the downsides of lathe cut records. So the first con of lathe cut records is the cost. They're a bit more expensive to make because each individual record is cut in real time on a cutting lathe like that, and there'll be someone like me stood over it keeping an eye on it for the entire process. But I've found that because they are hand cut and limited edition in small runs, people are often happy to pay a little bit more because they get the exclusivity of the lathe cut records. And the second con of lathe cut records is that there's not quite as many colours and texture options available. You can still get a good variety of colours for lathe cut records, but there's not the amount of splatter and marble and texture effects available. So there you go, that's some pros and cons of press records and lathe cut records. So if you're an artist wanting to get your music on vinyl, which should you go for? Well, if you're confident in selling lots of units fairly quickly and you've got a good amount of cash to invest, then pressed records are definitely the way to go. But if you're an independent artist and you just want to get smaller runs done, then lathe cut records are definitely the better option. I often work with bands who get runs of 20 or 25 made, and they go, do a run of gigs or a tour, sell them out, and then come back and get another run done. And for them, it's much more economical to do that than it is to invest thousands of pounds or dollars in getting several hundred press records made, which they might not sell as quickly as they need to. So there you go. I hope that's been interesting. And if you're an independent artist looking at getting vinyl made, I hope that's helped you make the right decision. If you've got any questions though, you can leave them in the comments. And if you're interested in record cutting, mastering for vinyl, and navigating the music industry as an independent artist, please make sure you follow along, like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.